XCOM, Fire Emblem, Wasteland, the industry is filled with brilliant tactics games in many different flavors, but there is one game that in my opinion has been severely overlooked. Maybe it's because of the fact that it's part of a franchise with games in bunch of different genres, or its art style and uncustomary 2D perspective. I'm of course talking about SteamWorld Heist. When SteamWorld Heist first came out a decade ago, I was instantly captivated by its unique take on turn-based tactical gameplay, and now the game has finally gotten a sequel, and as a huge fan of the original game and the SteamWorld franchise in general, I was excited to jump in. The game takes place some time after the events of the first game, not that it matters that much beyond some minor references and cameos. Our protagonist is Captain Leeway, a son of a legendary pirate who finds himself on this huge ocean floating in space. The ocean and its inhabitants steamboats are caught in the midst of a water crisis caused by the militaristic diesel bots and the bone-loving cultists, so Leeway with his trusty submarine and the crew head out to try to solve this crisis. The story, like in other SteamWorld games, is nothing groundbreaking, but it does provide you with a decent motivation for what you're doing, and the characters have that lovely charm and quirkiness you can expect from the series. But I did miss the old school radio play style cutscenes the first game had. Before we even get to talking about the improved tactical combat, we first need to talk about how you get to the missions. Rather than choosing missions from a menu like in the first game, you can now freely explore the map with your upgradable submarine, finding hidden areas and treasures while fighting against enemy ships. This is what the SteamWorld franchise has always been good at, mixing and matching different genres to create cohesive experiences, and even though controlling the submarine can sometimes feel a bit clunky, actively exploring the world does bring much needed balance between the combat missions. The missions are spread around the world, and you usually have to do a certain amount of them to gain fame to access a new area and progress in the story. Before you start the mission, you have to choose your squad, usually 2 to 4 characters based on the mission, but there are special solo levels as well. You start the game with the bare minimum crew members, but you get to hire more as the game goes on, adding more flexibility as the crew members can only do 1 mission per day before they have to rest. And you do want to do as many missions in a day to get higher bounties and better end of day rewards. The mission objectives are usually simple: get the loot, kill the enemy leader, and so on, but there is a decent variety, and additional objectives like different squad sizes or turn limits adds enough spice that avoids the missions feeling too repetitive. Choosing a correct squad based on the mission is critical, especially on higher difficulties, and that is where the game's job system comes into play. Each character has a job based on their weapons. There are 6 jobs in the game: snipers, brawlers, boomers, flankers, reapers, and engineers. Each job has a small skill tree that fills as you level up. The job is based on the weapon the character uses, and you are free to change their weapons and their job. When you do change jobs, you usually get to choose certain skills from the other jobs you have levels in, giving you a lot of freedom of how to build your characters. Maybe you want to give your shotgun wielding flankers some health and defense buffs from the brawler job, or maybe you want your reapers to have better aim by mixing them with sniper job. The combat itself works mostly like in the first game, where you have your turn and your characters have 2 action points they can use to move, shoot their weapon, or use supportive skills. Like I mentioned earlier, SteamWorld Heist's combat is done in 2D arenas, but the levels are well designed where I never felt like I was missing the third dimension. The perspective and the level layout gives you enough different ways to strategize, and where the game absolutely shines is in its shooting mechanics. In SteamWorld Heist 2, shooting is not based on percentages like it is in many other tactics games, but instead you can manually aim your weapon, and your aim stat defines how long and stable your aim line is, and you hit where you shoot. No chance involved. And just like in the first game, the combat's brilliance is in the ability to ricochet bullets. Your bullets bounce off surfaces, giving you the ability to hit enemies not in your line of sight. For example, you can create super satisfying shots with the sniper's long aim lines, where you bounce your bullets from like 3 different surfaces and hitting your target in the back of their skull. It never got old even after 30 hours of gameplay. And speaking of length, yes, the game is quite long, double the length of the first game. It took me over 30 hours to finish the campaign, and I do think that was a bit too long. I did play on the second highest difficulty and finished every level with full stars, which did add some length. I found the difficulty to be decently balanced for the most part. A lot of missions really required me to use all the systems in the game, and I was able to complete levels just by the skin of my teeth, which felt super satisfying, but then the game hit me with the last area. The last area had a huge difficulty spike with some annoying and punishing mechanics in both turn-based combat and the overworld ship combat. I did start to get frustrated and had to lower the difficulty to normal for the last few missions, which felt disappointing, but at that point I just wanted to see the game to the end. On positive side, those small moments of frustration were quickly dispelled every time I went to end the day in the game's bars, where you get to enjoy the awesome music tracks by the steampunk band Steam Powered Giraffe, who composed the game's soundtrack. Overall, despite few nitpicks and the punishing last section of the game, I loved my time with SteamWorld Heist 2. The original game already had a brilliant idea and execution, and the sequel just refined it to the point where it can confidently stand alongside some of the best tactics games I've ever played. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the review helpful. Hopefully this will inspire some of you to give SteamWorld Heist a chance, as I do think the game deserves to be played by fans of the genre. And to my longer time viewers, I do have to apologize for the lack of uploads recently. I got a new job in July, and even though I am really enjoying the new job, I just haven't had the time to play as much, let alone write, record and edit videos. But hopefully I can now get back on track. And if you do enjoy these videos, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you and have a great day.